I was born in '82, so I kind of the whole Uptown thing. I kind of had to go back to it to see what was happening.
Yep.
But it's pretty amazing
Man.
to see that era and what came out of there.
It's at 82, man.
Yeah, so you know when that
That's
stuff,
crazy,
yeah.
man.
So I got into hip hop like in the mid '90s. You know, like Wu-Tang Clan and
Yep.
the G-Funk era as well, Snoop and Dre and that kind of thing.
That's dope.
So,
That's dope.
but then when I got interested, you know, especially with Wu-Tang and New York rap, I went back further, and of course I was listening to Bad Boy and stuff. And
Right.
I followed that trail back through. Party Bullshit was one of the records that I found in the record store, and I was like, I didn't even know Biggie had a career before
Yep.
Ready to Die, and
Yep.
then then finding out the whole Uptown thing, and of course Pete Rock and CL Smooth, and tracing that back, and Pete was always talking about you in interviews and things like that, and coming up in that scene. It seemed like the Uptown run was pretty crazy at the time.
I mean, it was, man. But I mean, I grew up in hip hop. You know, before
Like party hip hop.
Yeah, before records, because Mount Vernon, where we all from, me, Heather, Pete Rock,
Money Earned in Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon, Mount Vernon's right next to the Bronx. Two sides of Mount Vernon is bordered by the Bronx. So before I could even be a DJ, I was probably like maybe 7, 8. You know, it used to be block parties, and you know there were the generation before us that before Sugar Hill even that didn't really make records. So I watched the whole thing evolve.
Right.
So
From like parties and breaks and just playing disco records.
exactly.
And were you were just watching it, and then when did you start getting involved?
I say when I was like 12, 13, I think my mom gave me $4 or $5. This is when a single was like $3.99. I remember I walked all the way from my house all the way across town to the record store, and I bought one record. It was a break beat. It had Apache and Bongo Rock on each side,
Bootleg,
A side,
it was a
B
bootleg.
side. Yeah, and I bought that home, and I phonograph player, not even a real turntable. The kind that has the arm where drops the record down automatic. So I'm trying to scratch on that. And
to mimic something you had heard at a party, maybe.
Yep. There was a block park. There was a park right up the street from where I lived, called Brush Park, and they would always have parties there. And the funny thing about it is that like Mount Vernon, Mount Vernon is Westchester County, so it's not really considered to be part of like the birth of hip. Yeah, exactly. New York City, birth of hip hop. But I found out years later, there's a crew from Mount Vernon called the Collins Brothers. And they were big in Mount Vernon. And Red Alert's half brother is I think Kenny J from the Collins Brothers.
Crew.
So he said, yeah, man, me, Bam, and Jazzy J, we used to all come to Mount Vernon because my half brother was in the Collins Brothers. I said, that's the connection. I said, man, I gotta document this somewhere.
Wow.
So from way back then, they were coming doing block parties.
Yeah.
I lived down the block. I was a little kid, 9 years old. I would hear the music, and I would go up there and just be,
checking
a
it
little
out.
kid trying to figure out what was going on. So that's how my love.
Then you bought
for hip-hop.
Apache, and that was one record. But then you started buying more with allowance money or like.
I got
lunch money.
turntables for Christmas. My mother and dad bought me turntables for Christmas. Turntables, mixer, Gemini speakers, and that's when I really became a DJ. And I would come home every day from school and just practice DJing.
Crazy.
And
cutting breaks and things
cutting
like
breaks.
That.
Yeah.
What were some of your favorite breaks that back then you cut? Like Apache?
Apache, definitely. Big Beat.
Yeah.
Good Times. Rock Bounce Skate.
Von Mason.
Yep. Man, Catch a Groove. Oof. Rocket in the Pocket. All of man.
Yeah, and you just doubled. And would you have people rapping over it as well, or you just do that at home to practice for the party?
I would have people rap over sometimes. Back then, we would just I would just have people come over. Yo, you want to come over after school?
Yeah,
make a
hang
tape?
out and play. Make a tape.
Yeah.
And they take it home or whatever.
Yeah.
And then did that lead to production?
Nah, man.
How did you get into production then from DJ?
I got into production after. This was after we started making records. I didn't even know what a producer was. I just was trying to make beats.
Yeah.
And I had some beats. And I actually, the first 2 records that ever got released on Uptown, which was Uptown's Kicking It and Mr. Big Stuff, I made the beats for both those records. I was a co-producer though, because I didn't even know what a producer was. I just made the drum tracks, and they liked them. Andre liked them, and he used them. And he produced one of them, and then there was another producer, 2 brothers that produced a compilation. They produced the other one, but they used the beats that I did. So I was a co-producer, and I was just learning how to be a producer. And I actually learned later on from Teddy Riley and Marley Marl. That's who taught me how to be a producer.
Songs,
yeah, how to actually take from making a beat into actually structuring and making a whole song. Yeah.
Damn. Teddy's from where? What part of New York?
Harlem, New York.
Okay.
And Marley's from Queens, Queensbridge.
And you had met them? Did you meet them in the kind of like with the Heavy D and the Boys?
Yes. Andre Harrell introduced us to Teddy Riley and Marley. We knew. I didn't know Marley. We didn't know him, but Andre introduced us to him personally. But we knew who he was because he was on the radio.
Yeah, right.
With Mr. Magic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Damn. It just seems like such an exciting time in New York City specifically.
It was, man. It's the funniest thing when we made records. We just wanted to hear our record on the radio. We weren't even thinking it's gonna go national, we're gonna tour, and it's gonna turn into an album. And we would just want to hear our record on the radio.
Jamming, yeah.
And
you were also there like when the R&B and hip hop kind of fused together as well. Uptown kind of that Mary J record is pivotal in that whole union. Uptown. Did you see it as different things? Did you see it come together? How do you take that? Because it kind of seems like there was a point where the Mary J record was kind of like, okay, this is where the beats are like a hip hop style.
Before you even had Mary Jodeci and was it maybe Lost Boys? That was kind of like the second generation Uptown. Even before then, Teddy was mixing hip hop and R&B. It just wasn't the beats. It was just like maybe more like samples. So you had Heavy D and the Boys, the Uptown compilation, had I'll Be Sure, and most importantly you had Guy. That first album, that was what put the hip hop and street sensibility with R&B music.
Right. The beats were tough.
And I mean, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. That first Guy album was so crazy. We had a hit record. Al had a mania going, and then you had, that anchor record with that first Guy album that just had all those, I Like and
big club
Me,
big club records.
It was just crazy.
Yeah, and that's where Teddy really took off with that record.
Yeah.
And then went on to do Michael Jackson and things like that.
Yeah.
Damn.
Funny story. I'll tell you a funny story about Michael Jackson. So, Hev gets a call. And Michael Jackson wants to meet him. So I wasn't there. I had to leave LA. I had to go back home and do a Somebody For Me remix or something. And back then, you didn't have email, MP3s, all that. So you had to physically go. So one of our partners and high school friends, D.O., he's with Hev. And they go to, wherever the designated place to meet Michael Jackson. They're in a room. And it's nothing in the room. It's just some chairs and maybe a plant in the corner. So they're in a room, and D.O. tells me, he says, they waiting in the room, and they're just waiting. And so they're like, yo, man. Hev says, man, is this bloopers, man? What's going on? And so they start cursing, and they're like putting their middle finger. They're like, man, if it's bloopers, you're not going to be able to use it. So he just starts going, man, fuck you. And he's like doing all this stuff. So somebody knocks on the door, what they thought was a big fat guy comes through. He just walks through, doesn't say anything, walks through and shuts the door. And they're like, what the? So they didn't know it was Michael Jackson in a fat suit.
In a suit, because he couldn't go nowhere at that time.
So he comes back in the room. He says, Heavy, I love your stuff. And, it's great. And he said, I want you to listen to someone. He puts on a tape. And it's Michael Jackson rapping. He's like, yo, fresh to the beat. And it's like, so he says, he turns it off. He's all excited. He says, Hev, how'd you like it? He said, and Hev says, Mike, that's whack. Okay, you need to leave the rapping to the rappers. He's singing, don't rap. Okay, I'm gonna fix you. We'll put you with Teddy Riley, my DJ Eddie F, all those people. And the moral of the story was that first, Hev was the person that actually ended up getting Teddy
with
Mike
for jam, whatever. Yeah.
suggesting him. Secondly, the craziest thing is he actually just straight up told Michael Jackson that, yo, he's whack. Don't rap. You're whack. Like let the rappers stick to the rapping. So my friend Dio said the whole time he's there, like,
couldn't believe
yo,
his
I
eyes.
can't believe he told Michael Jackson.
But that says something about Hev's character, right?
Yes, but it ended up being dope. So that's.
And Hev rapped on Dangerous. Did he?
He rapped on Jam.
Jam.
And then he ended up going to rap on All Right with Janet. First rapper to be on Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson.
Yeah, I'd say like music was always my passion, and so I always worked towards doing more of it. And so that started when I was like around when I was just obsessed with hip hop, and I wanted to buy all the cassettes. Mm-hmm. Every Tuesday the cassettes would come out, and I would go to the store and I would buy as many as I thought were dope, which is usually 4 or 5 cassettes, and then go home and digest it. And I needed to fund the hip hop addiction, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I came up kind of past the records. Like I in a small town in Canada, and it wasn't vinyl; it was only CDs and tapes. So I was just getting into hip hop. So I buy the cassettes, and then I wanted to buy a set of headphones. So I was too young to work because you weren't allowed to work till you're 16 in Canada. So I shoveled snow, I cut grass. Shovel the snow. That shows the Canadian side of me, I guess. But you got snow around Vernon too.
Yeah. You had that snow.
So shovel snow, cut grass, do landscaping work like gardening and babysit. And I did those. My friends would go out and I'd be like, damn, I gotta buy these tapes. So I gotta stick around. I gotta do the work. And I think there was something about that whole process of working for it that I wanted to do it, so I worked for it. And I think over that, even from that very beginning, just buying headphones and cassettes, I always worked towards what I thought was the most important thing in my life, which was enjoying music. And then when I wanted to get involved with hip hop music, I made my little beats and I wrote a few raps. But when it came to DJ, when it came to records, that was what I really gravitated to. And I was like, I'm gonna put all my resources into this. And when I did, I realized it was actually very expensive to be a DJ. Yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, I want to get the kit. And it's just, piece by piece. You start with a little crappy turntable, then you get a little crappy mixer, and then the pieces would build up. So I think all over my career and all over my life, it's always been inspired by working towards, the life you want or your goal like that. And I think that's still today, like, I still, even now when it's busier with gigs, I do the gigs so that I can do the gigs I want to do. I work towards it. I'm not, this isn't just a job to just pay the bills, but I actually want to be doing all this stuff. And I manifest it through that. It's just, I think that I learned that from as early as saving up money to buy tapes and headphones and everything like that. Does that make sense?
You have a lot of reach with today's artists because you got the internet, you have digital platforms, so you could literally reach the whole world. You couldn't reach the world before. So when I look at just the evolution of where everything has come from and how hard it was to there was a time you had to get a record deal because you couldn't be heard. You had to go to a record company because they had to put your record out. The thing I like about now is that with the generation that's now, you're in control. You can actually, if you're dope and you can connect with your audience and you can get to them, you can kind of guide your own destiny. You don't have to have another person telling you, a lot of times not necessarily correctly, oh, you shouldn't go with this record, you should go with this, or you shouldn't go with that mix, you should go with this. You could actually follow your passion. And I equate it to almost like the difference between when I was a DJ, just doing parties versus being in the music business. The thing that I loved about being a DJ was there was more freedom. You just did what was dope. You tried things, you experimented. And if the crowd reacted, you knew it was good. If they didn't, you tried something else. So I think now with the new generation, it's the same way. You can, if you feel like putting out 5 songs this week, you can. If they all get reaction, that's great. If they don't, you say, okay, I got to change something. I got to do something different. And I'm a music person first. I'm a DJ first. Me and Jeff actually talk about this a lot. I'm not one of those people that's like, it was better this way or the old school. Or what. I've never been like that. If it's great music, it's great music. If it's a great artist, it's a great artist. And there's always been great songs, and there's always been trash songs, no matter what generation you've been from. So I think there's a lot of great stuff out here. The only thing is that there's also a lot of junk. Too, because the barrier is
so low.
Yeah. So, but that's the only problem, that there's a lot of noise. So now you have to fight through the noise to be heard. So before, if there were 100 releases in a year, now you might have thousands,
tens, hundreds of thousands.
Exactly. You still have the great music, but you got all the other noise. So you have to try a little harder, but not even a little, a lot harder to get distinguished from the junk. But when you do, as opposed to reaching 500,000 fans, you can reach millions of people. And I think that's the benefit of now. And that's what I like now about the artistry and the artists now. This event, I think this is the most significant event that I've been to in my career since when I first got into business. That's how powerful this is, just connecting with all these people, just meeting everybody. It's like literally, if I wasn't in the business, it's the equivalent of all the people you heard on the radio, all the people you're fans of, and then you go somewhere and you're in a room and you meet all these people in person. So for me, it's like, man, it's just so super dope. And I'm like, man, like, I don't even know. I'm like, what can I do for Jeff? Like, I can't, it's crazy, man. It's just crazy that he put this together, put all these people in a room and the information that's being shared. And on top of the people, then you have the companies and all the platforms. It's just amazing, man. It's amazing.
But you said, what can I do for Jeff? And I think that the feeling I get from the whole thing and Jeff and just how happy Jeff is to do this is the thing that you give Jeff is to be in here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And contributed. Because, and it's amazing that he gives us the platform to do this, but when you look at who's here, it's the same thing. You say, I've heard a lot of these people, but maybe I don't know their music. And,
yep.
But what's amazing is that's people from 4 different generations even. You got teenagers here, Tennyson, you got people in their 20s,
yep.
You got people in their 30s, you got people in their 40s, you got people in their 50s.
Yep.
That's actually 5 decades of people, and they're all here trading ideas, and we, each one teach one. All young people can learn from the older people can learn from the younger people. We all have something that brings us here because of a talent we're given, and it's an amazing forum to just interchange information and just kind of just check in with people. Oh, I see how you doing.
Right.
I see how you did. It's kind of like you can take the inspiration from that. You can say, how can I apply that to what I'm doing? Or how does that, maybe it gives you some perspective on what's going on. Always does. And for me, even as a Canadian, sometimes while it's the same scene,
right.
I don't see the same people in the same circuit all the time. I kind of come in and do things and go home.
Right.
So I don't see the same people all the time. So even just come down to see how people are living, how they're chilling, how many connections have been made down here. Like even on the Eastern Seaboard, it's crazy, with Masego and the Virginia thing and the Baltimore and DMV. It's so easily accessible over here, and you see those relationships, Philly, New York, it's just so tight. And it's cool for me to come in and see how tight that is over here and how people just drive in. There's all these people just driving into this thing from all over the place. To continue on with what Eddie said, that whole pack, when we got together last year, I followed everybody on my socials, and it was amazing to keep up with them, whether it was on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, and just watch what they did from the experience here and where it went from there, because you saw collaborations like Stro and Tall Black Guy, and you just see them talking online, and I feel like it really pushes each other to kind of stick with it. It's almost like we come here to learn, but then you need something to kind of remind you over the course of time that they're out there, but each person from the playlist serves as a reminder to me to keep doing my thing and shows me the potential of where I can go. So I follow them, and it keeps with me the whole year. So it's amazing to come back. We come back. There's some people here that I only hung out with last playlist retreat and this playlist retreat, and I feel like we're best friends. You know, I feel like after following them and after sticking with them online and everything, that we're going through the same thing. So we're like a team now. So I love it. Yeah, it's great. And I see more new things like Eddie F. Again, going back to when I was a kid. Who's Eddie F? You know, I'm just going back, tracing old Uptown records, and here he is, and getting to talk to him about how he started DJing. And I feel like I'll be following Eddie, and, you know, maybe Eddie gonna call me, hey, Pastor, what's hot in the clubs? I see you over there in Germany. What's going on in Germany? Well, you know, here's what's popping in Germany. Check these records out. You know what I mean? We can all keep up with one another and learn from all the experiences we have moving forward.